Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to the class on public finance. This is Dr. A. Venkatesham from Faculty of Economics, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Today's topic is fiscal policy. It is a part of public finance. Fiscal policy, which is concerned with the overall effects of government's fiscal operations, namely total expenditure of the government, taxation on macroeconomic aggregates of national income, output, price stability. These are all concerned with the fiscal policy. So, fiscal policy denotes the use of budgetary instruments, taxation, public borrowing, and public spending for the advancement of the economy. According to Arthur Smith, fiscal policy can be defined as a policy under which the government uses its expenditure and revenue programs to produce desirable effects and avoid undesirable effects on the national income, production, and employment. So the fiscal policy measures employed by governments to stabilize the economy, specifically by manipulating the levels and allocation of taxes and government expenditures. So friends, here the fiscal policy in classical economists' opinion, the classical economists had believed in the policy of laissez-faire, which means a free operation of market forces would achieve full employment and ensure the optimum allocation of resources in any country. They classical supposed the interference of government in working of the economic system. But as for the modern economists, the modern fiscal policy is a technique to attain and maintain the level of full employment by maintaining public expenditure, revenue in such a way so as to keep an equilibrium between effective demand and effective supply of goods and services at that time. So friends, according to modern economists, Keynes, Lerner, and others, the government has to play a positive role so as to control the economy by means of taxes and expenditure, which they call as the principle of functional finance, which is termed as modern fiscal policy. So, the government uses both the policies, fiscal policy and monetary policies, to achieve or maintain full employment. So, the fiscal policy as to play a vital role in the economy, in stabilizing the economy, in attaining the social welfare. So, the tools and techniques of modern fiscal policy the policies of taxation, policies of government expenditure, policies of government income or revenue, policies of government borrowings or debt, public debt. So friends, here the functional finance eliminate the basic cause of deflation and inflation so that the economy stability is maintained. maintained. For this purpose, the fiscal policy has to play a vital role in the economy. So, the objectives of fiscal policy. What are the objectives of fiscal policy? The objectives of fiscal policy are different in different countries. For example, in developed countries, the objectives of developed fiscal policy, maintaining full employment, controlling inflation and deflation situations, and maintaining economic stability, maintaining price stability in their developed countries. But when regarding the developing countries, the objectives are slightly changed. They are different with the objectives of developed countries. The objectives of fiscal policy in developing countries are to increase the employment opportunities, to mobilize and allocate the resources among various sectors of the country, and minimization, to minimize the inequalities in income and wealth, and to increase economic growth, and to attain economic stability in the economy. These are the goals and objectives of fiscal policies of developing countries. So, based on these objectives, the fiscal policy is framed and implemented by the government. So, friends, here the fiscal policy, the tools of fiscal policy are public revenue, public expenditure, and public borrowing. Under public revenue, there are two sources, revenue receipts and capital receipts. Under revenue receipts or revenue sources, revenue sources are there, non-tax revenue sources are there. Under tax revenue sources, the government may impose okay, friends. The federal finance refers to the finances of various levels of governments, central, state, and local governments. The features of federal system, there are dual government systems. At the central level, the national government, and at the state level, state governments act as per the laws and rules and regulations prescribed under the Constitution of India. And another feature is distribution of powers. In a federal system, a division of functions and resources between the central and state and local governments are possible. The functions performed by the central government includes maintaining macroeconomic stability, international relations, defense, monetary policy, and currency policies, which are carried out by the central government alone. Some other functions are carried out with the cooperation of states like interstate corporations, communication sectors. So, and the functions which have a statewide jurisdiction are assigned to the states, and some other functions performed by both the governments, which are listed in the concurrent list. According to the Constitution, there are three lists are there: central list, state list, and concurrent list. And in federal system, there is a supremacy of Constitution. A federal state derives its existence from the constitutions. Every power, executive, legislative, or judicial power, whether it belongs to the union or the state, is subordinated to and controlled by the constitution of the country. And the other feature, another feature is authority of courts. In a federal system, there should be no violation of provisions of the Constitution by any tier of the government. This is secured by vesting power of interpretations of Constitution by the judiciary system. And in federal system, one more feature is doctrine of harmonious construction. It implies that different entries in different lists should be interpreted in such a way that the scope and meaning of one entry should not affect the meaning of the other entry. And the principles of federal finance, there are differences of opinions by many economists on the various principles of federal finance, which sometimes clash with each other. Therefore, it is necessary for us to understand the important principles of federal finance put forward by different economists. For example, number one, efficiency. It is a principle of federal finance. According to the principle of efficiency, the central, state, and local government should be able to handle efficiently in order to collect the public revenue from the different sources in their respective areas. And another principle of federal finance is uniformity. It means the union government should perform its responsibility that all the state governments in a federal setup get equal treatment in respect of obtaining the grant in aids, sharing of tax burden, and obtaining the benefits provided to the states. And economy and autonomy are other principles. And self-sufficiency is one of the principles of federal finance. According to this principle, in a federal setup, the central state government should have the fiscal competence in respect of allocating the financial resources. It is known as self-sufficiency. And the flexibility and economic regulations are another principles, and transfer of resources, adequacy and elasticity are the principles of federal finance. According to the principle of adequacy and elasticity, the resources allocated to each level of government should be adequate for the discharge of duties entrusted to it. So, such adequacy should not only meet present needs, but also the future requirements of the society. And integration and coordination should be there among various levels of governments. This is one more principle of federal finance. So the central and state governments are to integrate and coordinate with each other in respect of distributing resources between two layers of governments, as it may lead to promote economic development. So these governments are to follow the principle of coordination, not only in the matter of taxation, but also in financial activities uh, such as budget, creation, and operation of various activities. So here, friends, the central and state government should adhere to these above principles of federal finance to ensure the ideal balance of financial powers, needs, and available resources among the states. So, friends, according to the central state financial relations, in India, India is a country with federal structure. Central state fiscal relations are recognized as a very important in almost all the federations. And the central government plays an important and key role in achieving economic development in countries with the federal structure in modern times. And India was formed into a federation after independence. Provisions thus necessary were incorporated in the Indian Constitution. The division of revenues and functions, which is inevitable in a federation, is provided in the Constitution. So the central state financial relations, which are necessary for the existence of a federation, are governed by federal fiscal relations. So it is necessary to know elaborately the financial resource transfers which make fiscal adjustment between the center and state governments. So friends, there are 3 lists are there in the Constitution regarding the division of revenues and financial functions between central, state, and other governments. They are the union list and a state list and a concurrent list. As per the constitutional division, the union taxes as laid down in the list 1 of the 7th schedule are income tax on non-agricultural income, corporation tax, excise duties on tobacco and other goods, and estate duty on non-agricultural lands, taxes on capital values, taxes on other than stamp duties on transactions in stock exchanges and future markets, rates of stamp duty in respect of bills of exchange, checks, promissory notes, bills of landing, extras, and the taxes on sale or purchase of newspapers and on advertisements therein, terminal taxes on goods or passengers carried by railway, sea, air, and taxes on sale and purchase of goods other than newspapers, which where such sale or purchase take place in course of interstate trade or commerce. Taxes on the consignment of goods, which where such consignment takes place in course of interstate trade and commerce. Customs duty. These are all comes under state union lists. Under state lists, the taxes within the jurisdiction of the states are listed in list 2nd of the 7th schedule. They are tax on land revenue, taxes on sale and purchase of goods excluding newspapers, agricultural income tax, taxes on property and buildings, estate duty on agricultural lands, excise duties on goods containing alcoholic liquors for human consumption, and taxes on entry of goods into local area, taxes on mineral right, taxes on consumption or sale of electricity, taxes on animals and boats and vehicles, stamp duty rates in respect of documents other than those specified in union lists, terminal taxes on goods and passengers carried by railway, sea, area, and taxes on rail passenger fares and freights, and taxes on luxuries, including taxes on entertainment, amusement, betting and gambling, and tolls, and taxes on professions, trade, sailing, callings and employment, capitation taxes, taxes on advertisements other than advertisements published in newspapers. So apart from these taxes levied and collected by the states, the Constitution also has provided for the revenues from central taxes, certain taxes in the union list to be allocated partly or wholly to the states. So the central government, according to the, based on the recommendations of the Finance Commission, the central government will distribute the revenue collected from some taxes partially or fully distributed among the central and states. So another one, another list is there apart from a union list. Concurrent list is also there. The concurrent list include the subject that gives power to the government subject like education, including technical education, medical education, and universities, planning, criminal law, prevention of cruelty to animals, protection of wildlife, have given that can be conflict when law passed by the parliament and legislature, and the same subject, the Constitution provides for a central law to override the state law. So this has been criticized by various policy makers and economists that the power of the central government to override the state government's laws and legislations, it is termed as quasi-federal Indian system. So friends, according to on the basis of Finance Commission recommendations, it means the Finance Commission is a constitutional body which is constituted by the President of India on the recommendations of the Parliament. According to Article 80, according to Article 280 of the Indian Constitution, the Finance Commission is constituted for every 5 years to look after the fiscal policies of the central and state governments and to recommend for the distribution of financial resources among various levels of governments. So the Finance Commission is a quasi-judicial body set up under Article 280 of the Constitution. The first Finance Commission was constituted in the year 1951 to define the fiscal relationship or financial relationship framework between the central and states. This Finance Commission aims to reduce fiscal imbalances between the central and states, and it promotes inclusiveness. This Finance Commission consists of a chairman, a secretary, and 4 other members. It is set up for every 5 years. It is normally constituted 2 years before the period. The recommendations become valid for a period of 5 years. So the 14th Finance Commission was set up in 2013. Its recommendations were valid for a period of 1st April 2015 to 31st March 2020. The 15th Finance Commission has been set up in November 2017. Its recommendations will be implemented starting April 1st, 2020 onwards. We know that the 15th Finance Commission is chaired by Nandakumar Singh, N.K. Singh, and Arvind Mehta will be the secretary to the commission. Other members of commission are former Economic Affairs Secretary Shaktikanta Das and former Chief Economic Advisor Ashok Lahiri and Niti Ayog member Ramesh Chand and Georgetown University Professor Anup Singh. They are the members in Finance Commission. And friends, the Finance Commission recommends for the distribution of tax revenue between the state and centers, state and center governments. And it also determined the principles governing the allocation of grants in aid to the states and local bodies. For example, the 14th Finance Commission has recommended an increase in share of states in the center's tax revenue from 32% to 42%. Like this, the Finance Commission recommends for the distribution of financial resources among the central and state governments. Dear friends, the state financial relations, the central and state financial relations are, we can discuss these under various issues. For example, financial relations between central and state are essential to understand the functioning of financial institutions in the country. So India has a federal system of governments in which the central and state have equal power over legislation and administration in their jurisdictions prescribed by the Constitution of India. So the central state financial relations are largely decided by the center, as the Indian Constitution does not have clear demarcation for the distribution of financial power and resources in the Constitution. In this regard, in regard to the financial relations between central and states, there has been a power imbalance between the center and states. It often leads to the state depending on the central government. Here, friends, so it is termed as quasi-federal system in India, wherein the financial, legislative, and administrative powers are divided between the center and state. However, the center has more control, leading to great decision-making power. So, friends, the financial relations between center and state are such that the latter is often dependent on former. Hence, the states often dependent on the central government for the financial resources. As the Constitution has not made any specific distinctions, the country's financial resources are mostly under the control of the central government. So the state governments often have to do with the scarce resources, due to which they often have to ask the center for grants and aids and subsidies under various programs. So there are a number of articles in the Constitution that have provisions stating the guidelines for the centers regarding the allocation of financial resources among different states. The central state financial relations we can discuss with the help of various articles. They are Article 268. This Article 268 refers to the stamp duty levied by the center, but collected and distributed by the states. So the taxes derived from the stamp duty are excluded from the consolidation fund of India and are allocated by the states which levies them. And according to Article 269, the tax charged on all purchases, sales, and transportation of goods that are interstate, except a few, these taxes are distributed by the state governments but are collected by the central government. These taxes also do not add anything to the consolidation fund of India. In the 101 amendment, the new provision 269A was introduced in the Constitution, which deals with the GST, Goods and Services Tax. It applies taxes on interstate commerce that are distributed between states and the center. And according to Article 270, This 270 article states that the taxes collected and levied by the center are to be allocated between states and the center. So the taxes collected by the central government can be allocated between the center and state governments. This applies to the all taxes except for the taxes referred to Article 268, 269, 269A, 270, and 271. And another Article 271 gives Parliament the power to increase taxes on all goods, except for those mentioned in Section 246A at any time. It states that the surcharges contribute to the country's consolidated fund of India and will not be shared with the states. So these are the taxes imposed, levied, and collected and distributed above the state governments and central government. So friends, the tax is distributed between center and state in various ways. To understand the financial relations between center and state, knowing how taxes are divided and distributed is crucial. Below, here we can discuss the taxes exclusively assigned to the state, assigned to the central government, and can be distributed among both the governments, both levels of government, center and states. For example, taxes exclusively assigned to the center. This includes income the center receives from the corporation and income tax, custom duties, export duties, corporation tax, taxes charged on assets, capital value, succession duty in respect to the property, excise duty on jute and tobacco and extras. These are exclusively assigned to the central government. The income from postal and railways also goes to the central government. These are the taxes exclusively assigned to the center as per the Indian Constitution. The another one is taxes exclusively assigned to the states. The state governments receive their incomes from stamp duty, except the union list documents, and land revenue, succession and estate duty from agricultural land, and also income tax from the same. So these are the taxes exclusively assigned to the states. They are stamp duty, land revenue tax, succession, tax on succession, and estate duty from agricultural land, and also income tax from the same. So taxes on goods and passengers are carried by road or inland water, toll taxes, animals, boats, electric duties, OPM, all the taxes exclusively assigned to the state governments. So these are all the taxes also make up for the income of the state. And the taxes levied by union but collected in appropriate stamp manufacturing, cosmetics prepared by alcohol, narcotics, hemp. These are the taxes levied by union government, but they are collected and appropriated by the state governments. And taxes levied and collected by the union, but assigned to the states. There is one more provision that the taxes can be levied and collected by the union, but completely assigned to the states. These are the duties on succession to property, taxes on railways, airways, seaways, carrying goods and or passengers, taxes on freights and fares of railways, taxes for the stamp duties for stock exchanges and future markets, sale or purchase of advertisement space in newspapers, and the same for interstate transactions. These are all taxes levied and collected by the union, but totally the income from these taxes are assigned to the states. And one more provision is there, the taxes levied and collected by the union, but shared among the central government and state governments. This component of the financial relations between center and state are the equally shared resources determined by the parliament, which include income tax and excess duties, except for those on medicinal and toilet preparations. So friends, these are the taxes are levied and collected by the union government, but shared among the state governments. So friends, the financial relations between the central and state, we have discussed the tax revenue distribution among state and central government. But here one more provision is that grants in aid. So apart from the distribution of taxes, the Indian Constitution also has several provisions for grants in aid to assist state governments in times of financial need or emergency. According to Article 275 and 282, the states, these articles state that Parliament may provide grants from the Consolidated Fund of India to the states that need assistance, especially if there is a need for funds for the development of tribal areas. So the central government may provide grants in aid to the particular state. There is a special provision for the state of Assam as well. The different types of grants that define financial relations between central and state are we discussed below. They are statutory grants, discretionary grants, and other grants. According to Article 275, which article talks about these grants that Parliament is in charge of providing to the states that are in need. There are different provisions for each state mentioned in this article. And one more type of grants are discretionary grants. This grant is mentioned in Article 282. According to it, the center can assist states with its own discretion. These types of grants are not compulsory, are issued only to certain states. And other grants also from centers to states, these grants include grants for temporary period, grants that are charged in the Consolidated Fund of India, and grants recommended by the Financial Committee, and grants issued instead of export duties on jute and jute products to Odisha, Bihar, Assam, and West Bengal states. So these are other grants which are transferred from center to states. And the center-state financial relations after GST, goods and service tax, which the GST was introduced in India on July 1st, 2017. It is an indirect tax applied throughout the country, replacing the multi-tier taxes levied by central and state governments. It is a single tax for the nation. It was added to the Constitution in its 101 amendment to the Constitution. So this GST refers to the taxes that are levied on various goods and services at rates 0%, nil tax 5%, 12% tax, 18%, and 28%. GST has been classified into central GST, state GST, integrated GST, depending on the type of transactions and whether it is interstate or within the state. Okay, friends, these are the federal finance and central state financial relations between the center and state government. So here, we can question that which one of the following authorities recommends the principles governing the grants in aid of revenues to the states out of the consolidated fund of India. So these are the funds or grants in aids or revenues which are recommended by a committee or authority to distribute among the state and central government. They are, that is Finance Commission. So friends, here the Finance Commission frames some principles for the distribution of grants and aids, for the issue of grants and aids to the states from the central government. The primary function of Finance Commission is to distribution of revenue between central and states, prepare annual budget, and advise the president on financial matters, allocates funds to various ministries of the union and state. So the first primary function of the central government of the Finance Commission of India is to advise the president on financial matters when he refers to the Finance Commission. So friends, these are the central state relations in federal system. And one more, the functions of Finance Commissions are to allocate the withdrawal of money out of the consolidated fund of India, to allocate between states the shares of proceeds of taxes, and to consider applications for the grants in aid from the states, to supervise and report on whether the government, union and state governments are levying taxes in accordance with the budgetary provisions. So friends, here it is the function of the central government to suggest some principles for the governing of grants and aids. It also recommends for the distribution of financial resources between central and states. So friends, today we have discussed the fiscal finance and the federal finance system in India, federal system in India. Under this federal system, we discussed the central state financial relations. So the next topic is budget. What is budget? Budget was, the term budget was derived from the Middle English word baugette, which came from Old French word baguette, meaning a leather bag. The budget is the most extensive account of the government finances, in which revenue from all sources and expenses of all activities undertaken are so the friends, the budget is an account of the government finances. in which revenues from all the sources, non-tax and tax sources, and the expenses of all activities, budgetary and non-budgetary allocations, and plan and non-plan expenditures also comes under this budget. So the budget comprises estimates for next financial year called budget estimates. So India's first budget was presented on 7th April 1860 when it was under the British colonial rule. It was introduced by the then Finance Minister of India, James Wilson. So friends, the budget is financial statement or a plan of estimated receipts and expenditures of the government in a particular financial year. So what is budget? Budget is a financial statement or a plan of estimated receipts of and expenditures of the government in a particular financial year. It is prepared by the budget divisions, Department of Economic Affairs. It may include brand sales, volumes and revenues, resource quantities, costs and expenses, assets, liabilities, and cash flows. So budget, they are expenditures and deficits. Receipts refer to revenues collected by the government through various means of receipts. And so of government which do not create a liability or cause reduction in government. So for example, direct tax, corporation, wealth tax, gift tax, they are direct taxes. And indirect taxes, excise, customs, service, and sales taxes. And non-tax revenue include profits, dividends of public enterprises, instead over loans guaranteed and granted, external and fees and points. And capital budget is nothing but, capital receipts are nothing but those receipts which create a liability or cause reduction in government assets, recovery of loans, borrowings, disinvestment receipts. These are all known as capital receipts. So the objectives of budgets also there. The objectives of budget to redistribution of income and wealth. It is one of the most important objectives of the government budget. The government imposes heavy taxation on higher income groups and redistribute it among people of the economy. And reflects reallocation of resources, economic growth, managing public enterprises, economic stability. These are the other objectives of budget of the state governments. So, under the classification of budget, we can discuss the classification budgets. They are classification according to time factor, long-term budget, short-term budget, and current budget. Current budget is one which has to be prepared for a period of very short period, say a month or a quarter, year, which is related to the central conditions and current conditions. So friends, according to the functions, we can classify the budget: sales budget, production budget, material budget, labor and factory overhead budget, administrative expenses budget, selling and distribution overhead budget, capital expenditure budget, cash budget, master budget. According to the flexibility, we can classify the budget into various types: fixed budget and flexible budget. A fixed budget is drawn for a fixed level of activity and a prescribed set of conditions. And flexible budget, it is otherwise called as variable budget. The Chartered Institute of Management Accounts in England defines a flexible budget as a budget which by recognizing the difference in behavior between fixed and variable costs in relation to fluctuations in output, turnover, or other variable factors such as number of employees is designed to change appropriate with such fluctuations. And the types of government budget: balanced budget, surplus budget, deficit budget, zero-based budget, performance budget. These are the 5 types of budgets are there. Balanced budget. What is balanced budget? A government's budget is said to be balanced when its estimated revenue and estimated expenditure is equal, where the government receipts are equal to the government expenditure. It is known as balanced budget. And surplus budget, when estimated government receipts are more than the estimated government expenditures, it is termed as surplus budget. When government spends less than the receipts, the budget becomes surplus, that is estimated government receipts greater than anticipated government expenditure. A surplus budget is used either to reduce public debt or to increase. Another type of budget is deficit budget. When estimated government receipts are less than the estimated government expenditures, then the budget is allocated deficit budget. Most of the budgets are of this nature, that the estimated government receipts are less than the anticipated government expenditure. A deficit budget increases the liability of the government or decreases its reserves. And one more budget system is there, zero-based budget, ZBB. It is a method of budgeting in which all expenses must be justified for each new period. So the process of zero-based budgeting starts from a zero-based, and every function within the countries, within the organization is analyzed for its needs and costs. So another type of budget is performance-based budget. A performance budget is a budget that reflects the input of resources and the output services for each unit of an organization. So this type of budget is commonly used by the government bodies. So to show the link between taxpayer funds and the outcome of services provided by the federal government, state and local governments. So the major aim of performing budgeting is to improve the efficiency of public enterprises by taking its funding of public sector organizations to the result they deliver. So friends, these are the budgets and budget types. So under budget system, we can discuss about the various types of accounts under budget. So there are two types of accounts, especially revenue account and capital account. So a revenue account is an account with a credit balance. It includes all the revenue receipts, also known as current receipts of the government. These receipts include tax revenue and other revenues of the government. And capital account is an account that includes the capital receipts and the payments. It basically includes assets as well as liabilities of the government. So friends, today we have discussed about the fiscal policy. What is the fiscal policy? What are the objectives and functions of tools of fiscal policies? And what are the effects of fiscal policies? And one more topic is federal finance. What is federal finance? And what are the features of federal finance system like India? And central state financial relations in federal finance system, and various provisions in the Constitution of India regarding the central state financial relations. Here we discussed about the central state financial relations as per the provisions of the government. So friends, for today, we are ending this session. So here we also discussed about the budget session, budget topic. What is budget and classification of budget based on various criteria, and the two accounts of budget, revenue and capital account. So in the next class, we discuss about the budget and international trade and public finance and other issues. Today, thank you very much.